Today's athletic artist guest is Kade Terzo, Executive Director of Monday Night Ministries. So first, how did you get saved?
I've grown up in the church and with a solid Christian family. And I think when I was around 4 years old, my whole family was on a missions trip except for my dad and I. And I accepted Christ at home with my dad. I usually say that I was saved more in high school because I'm not really sure exactly what happened when I was that young. So in my sophomore year of high school, I started pursuing God on my own more, doing mentorships. And I like to say Jesus really came into my life through his hands and feet, which are his people. And so a lot of older men in my life began to mentor me. And I really found Jesus through those relationships and mentorships. So I think in my sophomore year of high school, I really began living for Jesus.
Give a shout out to your mentors.
Chung Man Kim was my freshman year, and then Josh Gonzalez, my Bible teacher, sophomore year, and he's been mentoring me for the past 3 years. Chris Versmo is my brother-in-law. My dad is a huge mentor. Sister, Taylor Versmo, and there's probably other names I'm forgetting, but God's definitely blessed me with a big support team.
How do you grow your relationship with God?
Yeah, my personal relationship with God, the biggest way I prioritize that is usually I try to the first thing in the morning. I have a quiet spot outside that I go to. I have a couch on the back porch. That's kind of been my spot, at least for the whole summer, where I usually go in the morning and just spend time. I usually have a book I'm going through. Right now I'm reading a book called The Seeking Heart, and it's by an older French theologian. But it's I like spiritual formation books, so a lot of John Mark Comer, stuff like that, and that's definitely been really guiding for my personal relationship. And I usually prayer journal too is another thing I like to do, and then I'm usually reading something in the Bible. So right now I'm in Luke, and I'll sometimes just read a chapter a day, and I have a study Bible, so that's usually enough to help me understand the things I don't with just reading the direct Bible. Yeah, I think prayer and reading is a big part of it, and then there's also all community things are a big part of that too. But I would say the really personal growth is usually through just quiet time in the morning, and different forms of worship alone, I guess.
How do you prioritize your relationship with your girlfriend?
One of the things we like to do is go on day trips. So we went to San Francisco, and that was fun. And that's I think day trips are kind of the way we connect best. Usually we're in a better mood, kind of just getting out of town and doing something. So that's my love language is definitely quality time. So I think that to me prioritizing her is spending quality time. So doing a day trip or something once in a while is a big way I would prioritize her. And then also just trying to have intentional conversations about how we're doing spiritually, and things like that is also quality time, and quality intentional conversation is definitely my love language.
How do you disciple her?
Yeah, I like to share with her some of the things I'm reading. So I usually will recommend books to her, and then we try not to do too much spiritually intimate stuff together because we've got a long ways ahead of us until we could be married. So I usually will recommend books to her, and then or we'll just kind of talk about the different things we're learning about spiritually and in our books. And then she's also one of the main people that helped start Monday Night Women. So kind of teaching her a lot of those principles about transparency and accountability and community. I think that was she's really taken those as her own now, which has been cool. So that was a big thing too. She really internalized all that stuff and was excited to try to start the My Women side of things. But she had a lot of partners in helping start that too, so it was a blessing. Mm-hmm.
Let's move to your parents. How do you prioritize them?
My dad is usually at work all day, so we kind of opposite schedules, so we don't end up at home at the same time a lot of the time. So we usually try to go to breakfast on Saturday mornings. That was really over the summer that started being more consistent, so that's been nice. And we went through I think 2 books ago we went through that one together, so that was cool. We just talked about that at breakfast. And then with my mom, I used to be at school with her every day because she was teaching there, so I'd see her a lot. And then in the summer, it's kind of the same thing. Like we don't overlap as much, so we've been going out to lunch or breakfast on a different day. So usually, like the most healthy time for us is either like going on a breakfast date or a lunch date, and so that's been good, at least over the summer, to prioritize those relationships.
Okay, that was the R, relationship priorities. Now let's move to the A in R.A.D life, athletic artistry mastery. What sport do you enjoy most and are best at?
So yeah, right now it's probably running. Yeah, so I played sports in high school, but that's over now. So I think in the future it's going to be more running and lifting. So yeah,
What sports did you play in the past?
football and wrestling.
How did you get into running?
So I think in my freshman or 8th grade year, my brother-in-law Chris, he forced me to go on a turkey trot, which is like a 5K on Thanksgiving Day. So I did that with him, and then after that, he kind of like roped me into start training for a marathon, because he ran a lot of marathons at the time. So we did like 6 months, maybe 8 months of training for that, like after that Thanksgiving, and then we ran a marathon, and that was pretty awesome. We just did it on our own without an event, and I invited a couple of friends to do it with us, and our parents helped do aid stations and stuff like that. And yeah, and you guys, Chungman and Deb, you guys were there, I think, at that first one.
Yeah, he brought like
Pancakes or something. Yeah, we had some pancakes before we went out on the run, and so that was kind of how I got into it. And then I ran pretty consistently for a while after that. In the world of like long distance running, it's like it's closer to the bottom probably, because people will do, I mean, yeah, to like a normal runner, like marathon's like probably the farthest he would go, but to like the very niche like long distance runners, like they'll do up to 100 miles or like 50 miles, and then they'll start doing them on like trail runs, so they're a lot like harder and take longer. So it's like long distance running is like from a marathon all the way up to like 100 miles or like 120. I think there's some races that go that high, but yeah.
And the highest you've gone is
a marathon. Yeah.
And you've done a couple of those.
I've done 2. Yeah.
Wow. All right. How did you become great at running?
I guess mainly through my brother-in-law Chris, because he's done a 50 miler, and so he has a lot of experience and kind of gave me some tips for that. And we would run when I was doing all the training for the marathon. We try to shoot for probably around like 20 to 35 miles a week. So it'd be like consistent 5 to 6 mile runs throughout the week. So consistency is good, and there's different training strategies as far as doing some faster and some slower, and then maybe on the weekend doing a longer run, and in the weekdays keeping it like consistent shorter runs. But yeah, definitely consistency is key, because I haven't been running consistently lately, and it's gotten a lot harder. So yeah.
You mentioned your brother-in-law. Is there any other runners that are your role models that are like famous? That you
yeah, when I was training for the first marathon, I read David Goggins' book "Can't Hurt Me," and so that was a inspiration for running. He was kind of the first. That was like a long time ago, though. He was kind of the first guy that like I'd watch on media or anything for running stuff, or like kind of encouragement. But I haven't watched him too much recently. But yeah, I would say like he's probably the main one, and then my brother-in-law is definitely like who I would go to for like tips and just strategies and stuff for running. So yeah.
How would you encourage a young runner to go from good to great?
Yeah, I would say consistency, and then like one thing I took from David Goggins' book "Can't Hurt Me," I think he calls it the 40% rule. It's definitely really true, because like once you start doing more long distance stuff, like you could keep going for a while after, like when you thought you were done, like you might be able to run like 10 more miles or something. So like that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're on a run and it feels really hard.
Let's move to artistry mastery. What are your creative gifts?
I would just say mainly music, and yeah, I'd say music kind of encompasses it.
And you sing, right?
Yeah, and singing. So
What instruments do you play?
mainly guitar, but I play piano too, and sometimes I'll play like bass or electric guitar for worship, kind of like where it's needed.
Do you have any guitar and piano players and singers that like inspire you?
Yeah. So Jacob Collier is probably my favorite like music artist. Kind of like trending right now for more musician people or people who have a like ear for I guess more advanced like musical stuff. So he's like really into like kind of like experimenting with new sounds and stuff like that, like music theory wise. So I really enjoy listening to him, and I got to go to his concert like this last few months. So he's like probably my biggest like music inspiration as far as like listening and just enjoying. And Will Reagan is another. He's a worship leader, and I really like his kind of style. Like Yusuf Days is a drummer I really like, but I'm really into like I guess kind of jazz sounds and stuff like that. So people that play a little weirder stuff definitely like inspire me.
So how do you grow your singing, guitar, piano, and how do you grow those skills to get better and better?
Yeah, so I think like the church has been like the biggest opportunity to grow those things, especially singing. Like singing, I never took really lessons for or anything like that. My mom has taught me a little bit of singing because she sung for her whole life. But kind of like being in the praise band and stuff has like given me the experience I need to be able to like sing a strong melody or harmony. And yeah, just being like playing several sets a week for the church is definitely helpful for that. And then as far as guitar and piano, I was taking like lessons in both, and then over the summer I don't really have lessons. So right now I kind of have a setup where I teach guitar lessons, and I have like a piano and a guitar there, and then usually my computer. And there's a lot of like online resources that I use as far as YouTube or just different people that I like to watch that help me to grow. And then a lot of it's like experimenting with new like kind of styles, like learning classical guitar is something I'm starting to do to prepare for college. And then like even just hearing songs and then going on YouTube or going online to figure out what the chords are and learning them is like a huge way, like really my whole time learning music, how I've like grown. And it's fun to be able to like hear a song that you want to play and then go learn it. And you learn a lot through that. So, and there's also mentors kind of that musically have helped me. So like James Fuel is a worship leader at Big Valley that I've been interning under. And so he's been helping me grow a lot musically through like ear training and just being in worship bands with him. He'll teach me tips and like new tunings on the guitar, stuff like that. So yeah.
Nice. And any specific ones that pop out of your head for YouTube or the resources specifically that the viewers that might help them if they want to look it up?
Yeah, True Fire is a good guitar online learning resource. For piano, I don't know. I don't have like specific resources, but I would definitely encourage you to like if you hear a song that you think you want to play, but maybe it sounds too hard or something, like search it up, and it's probably not as hard as you think it is, and there's probably a tutorial out there. And then I would just encourage people to like learn why it sounds that way. So don't just play it, but figure out like what the theory behind it is, so that you can replicate that sound in your own music, or like a sound that like your ear just really likes. Like figure out like why it sounds that way and like what you're doing actually, and then you can add that sound into your own playing. So that's kind of like, it's usually not a single resource. It's kind of like a lot of that stuff. So yeah.
But what are your spiritual gifts?
I would say probably leadership, and then maybe wisdom. are probably the two that I could see, or maybe other people have told me they could see. Yeah, I do teach a little bit.
Where do you see that come into play? The leadership and teaching and wisdom.
Yeah, for leadership, I would say the biggest area is probably in worship. And then as far as wisdom, I think in intentional conversations that I get to have with people, just trying to share whatever wisdom that kind of God has given me, a quiet place, I guess, like in that alone time. I think God definitely teaches me in those times. So sharing what wisdom I've gleaned through just prayer and reading books and the Bible. Usually when I can really share that is like once that wisdom has applied to my life in some way, and I see someone kind of going through a similar situation as me, and just sharing the encouragement or wisdom that I've been given in that, through that quiet time, or also a big one is like through mentors and stuff that have given me wisdom and just kind of like passing that down.
And how were you able to discover those? How did you know that those were your gifting?
Yeah, I would say like definitely people pointing them out to me, and just kind of reading those lists that like Paul has given in the scripture, and trying to see where those like show up in my life. But I would say like definitely there's been times where in leadership and trying to share wisdom that I feel like very incapable of doing it, but the Spirit definitely will like equip me in those times when I'm trying to lead people into worship, or in different scenarios that I know that I'm not capable of doing on my own. So I think from those situations too, I've kind of learned that.
So how do you combine your creative gifts and your spiritual gifts?
Definitely through leading worship is the main area, and it's a blessing that I get to be involved in so much of that at my church, and like at different churches, and then on missions trips, or in my Bible study, or whatever it is. So
many believers actually don't know their spiritual gifts. What advice, wisdom would you give to them?
I would say like even maybe asking a mentor that knows you really well, that is has a strong relationship with God, would probably be able to point them out to you. Like I know my mom seems really good at that, and she can usually, like, even in my friends or something, like tell me like, oh, they're gifted in generosity or whatever it is, or hospitality. So like doing that, and then just reading what Paul says about them is another big thing, to even know what they are. So
move on to dream destiny, which is getting paid for what you're made for.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're the co-founder, co-leader of a ministry called Monday Night Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are loving that. So right now you're in the process of making that full time.
Yes.
Where you're getting paid for what you're made for.
Yeah.
And so let's back up and explain first, what is Monday Night Ministries?
Yeah, so Monday Night Ministries is a ministry right now that is mainly been geared towards like young women and young men, and we're about transparency, and kind of a verse we're based off of is 1 John 1, like 7 through like 12. The message of that verse is, if you say you have no sin in you, then you're deceiving yourself and the light is not in you. So our kind of tagline is deceive yourselves no longer. And we're really for principles like bold prayer over one another, and bold confession. And we've kind of like formatted that into Bible studies, so where we study scripture, and then we have a second part, which is really the tool, an important part, where we have accountability and transparency, and where we can experience tangible grace. And so the kind of the background, it started as a just group of three guys that wanted to get together to hold themselves accountable, and also talk about just the Christian faith. And so they kind of like, they were older than us, and their names are John Ryan Gruber, Kade Nickerson, and Jake Dobbins, I think were the three. that maybe started it, but yeah, the group grew and they started inviting more people, and then they kind of left it as like a legacy, and like passed it down to us, and then we grew it, and it was just kind of just a Monday Night Men thing for just guys, and then Cohen and I have been trying to more found Monday Night Ministries to mobilize those principles, and now we've been able to plant the Monday Night Women, and a lot of those original guys went to Phoenix and they planted a Monday Night Men. And so kind of this way to mobilize it, those principles, and then also connect all the Bible studies and hopefully expand and do new things with it, is what Monday Night Ministries, we like hope it could be.
Cohen mentioned, yeah, you guys are now in Uganda.
Yeah.
Through the women's.
Yeah.
But you just gave an update about it this morning.
Uh-huh.
Can you?
Yeah. So Ellis Benavides is she's one of the girls that's been a part of the women's group that just started about like a month and a half ago. And so her family was already planning to go to Uganda on a missions trip, to start a VBS, I think, and do a couple other things with connections they had. And then she felt, called to take the opportunity to try to start a women's group there, because she's just has a testimony from what Monday Night Women has done in her life. But yeah, we've been praying for her about some just details that were unresolved about how things were going to work, about meeting, and some of those are still unresolved, but she's gotten there now and has news that I think there's going to be 20 girls that will be able to come to the group. So we'll continue to pray for transportation and a meeting place, but I think that's a huge blessing and probably relieves stress for her that she's going to have a solid group there. And so she just shared with us with that yesterday. And so, yeah, it's super exciting that seems like she's going to for sure be able to share those principles and values there, and maybe try to leave a group there for them. So, yeah.
Not knowing the answers, just taking action, faith, and God will do the rest.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It is. So you're trying to mobilize and start different places, and we see it's happening. So how are you able to train them? Do they have like a booklet or curriculum, or is it all like verbal training? Like, how are you training them to actually be leaders, becoming leaders and mobilizing? Like,
yeah, I think the best way is to just show them. So when we try to even when we invite new people to our group, it's like we can only explain so much, and we're like, okay, we're going to go into part 2 now, but you're going to go last since you're new, and you're going to just watch as people share their burdens and like what's happened this week, and we pray for each other, and then we're going to pray for you at the end after you share. So kind of the idea that vulnerability breeds vulnerability, and like that it just is something that has to be shown, is kind of the main thing. But on top of that, we still needed like something a little more centralized, and something to leave with the new groups that we hope to start. So we've written out just kind of, we have like a couple like Google Docs of just what a night could kind of model for what a night could look like, and then just some ideas and mission statements for each part of the night. So kind of like how to be intentional in your part 1, and then how to be intentional in your part 2. And then we have like a vision for like the overall ministry that we can kind of leave people with, and then hopefully they make the group their own, but it still is aligning with our principles and the tools we're trying to encourage of confession and prayer. So we have the main thing is kind of having someone there to show them what it should be like, and then leaving them with something that a framework that they can work off if like nobody there is necessarily like a super like charismatic like leader. They can still just have a model for like how the community should look. And we would hope to kind of like, once we get a website started, be able to like have those resources available so that people can start their group, or we could assist them through just sharing those resources for like a framework of how the Bible study would look.
Yeah, you and the other co-founder leader Cohen are starting to support RAISE, so you can get paid for what you were made for as full-time ministers or missionaries. How's that going?
Good. So we the biggest step was to be able to be donated to. So we have a link now. It's going well. We need to start meeting with donors, and we're kind of working on our slides to be able to have something to present to people, and ask for donations and support in that. Yeah, hopefully we can start doing something more in Phoenix too when we move, and we'll like have a more like permanent community there that we can start doing more support raising stuff through, and get involved in the local church.
What has helped you so far to get this?
So we've definitely had a lot of encouragement from Chungmin through our meetings with him, and kind of him explaining some of the steps and like things that we've glossed over that we need to like have as a foundation, and then trying to be as consistent as we can, and like just Cohen and I meeting together to write out mission statements, like tweak things. Yeah, recently there's been a lot of things we've had to tweak just in our Bible study itself, like our local Bible study, just to make sure things are better organized. And so, yeah, definitely not neglecting to like meet and talk about those things that need to be changed, to just like, yeah, trying to tweak the system as best we can so that it's more transferable when we try to, yeah, mobilize it more. And then, yeah, meeting with different mentors has been really helpful too.
Besides mentors, is there any specific resources that helped you guys that might help others?
Rooted Church was a big help in kind of like funding our first missions trip to Nicaragua to plant the Bible study there. Ask your local church for help, and just have a plan for and a vision for what you want to do, and present that to them.
Have you guys presented to anyone else yet?
We kind of presented to one of the staff members from a Jesus mission, but that was just kind of like a relational thing. He just wanted to see what we were up to, and so we showed him. But that was when we had first kind of gotten our slides together. So yeah, hopefully we'll finish up the slides and get some more practice kind of presenting our Monday night ministries. Because when we did it to Rooted, it was just like we're presenting to them what we want to do in Nicaragua. We just want to start a Bible study. But now we have like a bigger vision for Monday night ministries, and I would hope to start sharing that.
Any wisdom for the viewers on making slides?
Yeah, our slides, we have like our title slide, and then our tagline visible on that, and then we kind of had we tried to format it as like most of it's in like threes. So like three of our, like, I think it's like I think we put our vision next, and then we had like three of our main like principles, and then maybe like three different sections of like we do Bible studies, missions trips, and then like like kind of formatting as like your ministries maybe, and then we were trying to add some like documentation of like worship nights we've done, or the missions trip, or stuff like that, and then at the end kind of sharing like what our needs are for what we want to do next. So yeah.
That's one inspiring story so far with Monday Night Ministries.
Yeah, so I think like the Nicaragua trip was probably the biggest inspiring thing so far. We went there and we held like a 3-day conference, or it was on 3 nights. And we really just tried to show the guys there like what we've been doing. And so again, just like showing them, and not like more showing than telling. And so we had like 3 guys from our Bible study here were able to go. And so we had enough guys to kind of be in each group where sharing went on, and just kind of show them what it's like to be vulnerable. Like we all gave our testimonies, and we kind of modeled it how our Bible study was modeled each night. But we didn't really tell them like we're here to plant a Monday Night Men. And then, yeah, what was really encouraging and like the biggest testimony is kind of like we had a worship night on the last night we were there. And at the end of the night, they like asked us if we could pray over them starting their group, and we never even like told them that's what we're here to do. We were just like, we're just going to show you what we've been doing. And like they like were able to just like taste and see the fruit of like what God does through just like those principles. And like I think, yeah, people find a new sense of God's grace through doing those things, and they wanted to like keep that going. And so we were able to like pray over them as they started their new group. And that was like a really encouraging thing to go there and just show them and not really tell them like we're trying to like leave this here for sure. And then them just like wanting to keep it going.
So we have glimpses of what you do. What is your exact role in Monday night?
Our goal is to kind of keep it like stray away from having a one leader thing in our groups. So trying to have it as like community based as possible, but we also want to keep organization. We have a different person. We try to have different people kind of lead each night. Recently, we went through a series from John Mark Comer. It's called Practicing the Way, and we did like a prayer series. And so we went through that series as a group. Our groups, we try to encourage not having one leader, but maybe having someone, a different person each night to do announcements and kind of lead us from having dinner to part one, and then out of part one into part two, and having different people each week kind of do those roles. So we're still organized, but it's not so centered around one person because we're all the same age, and it's not like one person is wiser than the other, but we want to have like organization still. So, but I think like my role is just being like in that community because it serves me to just being a part of the group. So in the Bible study, it's just being there. My house happens to be like where it's hosted right now, but when I go off to college, it'll hopefully move to another home. But as far as like Monday Night Ministries as like an organization that we want to start, we would probably, like Conan and I would probably be more like co-founders or co-leaders of the whole ministry as a whole, and hopefully help like guide different groups and provide resources and things like that. But yeah, for like Monday Night Men, just as a Bible study, like we just get to attend and like enjoy it with everybody else.
And how can people learn more about you guys and support you guys?
Right now, our the main thing we have is our Instagram and it's just at Monday Night Ministries. Has a link for donations, and then it has updates of kind of the things we've done and what's going on, and yeah, so that's like our main thing, and then hopefully the website will eventually be linked to that. And it should. I'm assuming it has our email on there too, which again is just thinkmondayNightMinistries@gmail.com. So as of now, our Instagram would be the best place.
What is one piece of encouragement you want to leave the audience with?
Definitely, like since we're talking about Monday Night Ministries and everything, I would say like the base encouragement would be to get involved in community, and yeah, like as a Christian, don't deceive yourself that there's no sin in you, but lean into community and lean into grace and humility, and like God has given us these principles and tools of sharing burdens with one another, and praying and confessing that we might be healed. Like don't neglect those things, and get involved in community, and yeah, just be authentic with other Christians. But then for the lost, authenticity is a great way to invite people that don't know Jesus in, because you're taking off this blanket that you're a perfect Christian, which is a big reason why the lost like don't want to come in. So having an authentic community of vulnerability and not like what Jesus is doing at the heart level and not just on the outside, and what you're struggling with at the heart level is like the best way to relate to other Christians, but then also the best way to reach non-believers, I think.
Divine Kingdom Testimonial.
Divine Kingdom has encouraged me to step out and take action while maintaining discipline, and they've given me hope to do what I love for a living.
You say that you love me, don't say that you love me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. You say that you want me, don't say that you want me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. I still act like an orphan, I guess, in my heart.